how did he win Georgia?
Because he ran a progressive agenda. Biden ran on eliminating student loans. Yes, he's done a lot for that, but he hasn't done significantly.
He did a lot of that.
He also ran on solving the housing crisis. We've seen housing prices just continue to inflate. These are issues where...
I mean, I have no clue if Biden ran on that. But he did. He also did do stuff on fucking... on housing.
He was able to corral Congress and get bipartisan legislation passed. I mean, infrastructure bill, $1 trillion worth of infrastructure to upgrade our bridges, our tunnels, something that we've been needing for decades. A guy who brought back manufacturing to America with the CHIPS and Science Act. You know, just
the brought back manufacturing, I mean, I think it's good that we have chip manufacturing here. I don't really care about aggregate manufacturing. But that's true. He did lead to increasing manufacturing jobs in the exact places we needed it. Yes, based, correct.
Solid leader when people were looking for that. So I think Biden had a brilliant presidency. It's sad that our fellow Americans aren't going to reward him for that. But that's the times we live in now.
Joe Biden stood on his ground about unfettered support for Israel in the Benjamin.
I was not unfeathered. He paused fucking 2,000-pound bombs, and Trump just unpaused them. But at least he wasn't saying that he was going to fucking deport people to Egypt. If you want to see more content like this, I would really appreciate you liking and subscribing. It really helps with the algorithm. And make sure to check out the Discord and other social links in the description. Finally, I get to watch this. I've been not watching it for the past 3 days. I've been distracted. It has my guy IRI in it, though. He's very far in the back. He's wearing a Destiny sweater, which has not aged well since the release of this episode.
We are almost fighting Satan, and Satan being Trump. You know, I'd rather the dog catcher be president of the United States over Donald Trump.
I would rather a rock with googly eyes be the president over Donald Trump.
Real truth.
Step forward if you agree with the prompt. The far left made us lose the election.
Why is it so low quality? I mean, the far left certainly was not helpful. I don't know if I would say they made us lose. I think inflation was a way bigger issue than the far left making the moderate left look bad or something. But
in the interviews, I did have a lot of people agree.
Ooh. Show yourself.
Okay.
Step up. Let's go.
Oh. So awkward.
Yeah, see? Okay. It's a kind of a big accusation to say that they made us lose the election. Yeah. I think there are elements on the far left that contributed to like a sort of an optics that made us look a little bit more extreme than we actually were. So in that way, yeah, of course there was a little bit of contribution there. Was it the sole reason why? Of course not. No.
Yeah, I think it's pretty nuanced. If you looked at it as like a pie graph, 70% is because of the far left agenda. I think there's just too many Americans that are too close to the center.
70%? Biggest issue, but you Americans about to learn what high cost really means. True. I mean, I obviously think the biggest thing was just inflation. I think that was probably the biggest. That was probably the single biggest thing. And then it's hard to even blame the far left. It's hard to blame the far left because the far left barely, if not openly rejected our candidate anyway, Kamala Harris. And Kamala Harris just refused to condemn or say anything against the far left in strong enough terms. And she probably should have done that. But
and I don't have issues per se with what is considered the far left agenda, but the big issue is if it's costing us national elections and the House of Representatives and the Senate and the Supreme Court and the White House, we have to make some adjustments.
Yeah.
I really think that optics are important because I don't know how it is for everyone, but personally when I would go on my TikTok or any social media, I would see a lot of Kamala HQ videos and a lot of things from the Democratic Party, and it was giving a lot of far left ideology viewpoints in the way it kind of portrayed itself. And it is good to rally up support and stuff, but it also I feel isolates those who do care about other issues such as the economy and other things like that. It turns people off because I think at the end of the day we have to acknowledge that there is a stereotype when it comes to the Democratic Party, and it's unfortunate, but when people see things that align with that stereotype, it ultimately kind of hits us back a bit. Not to say that there's not stereotypes everywhere, but
yeah. I mean, I think in general what we're saying is that it's not that we disagree with a lot of the things that the far left believes in. It's so much more of the way it's communicated in their approach. And I think we see it in extremism in any capacity with regards to any issue. But obviously for us, I think it affects us more because it's well, gosh, I do agree with you in so many ways, but the way you're doing it is making us look so bad. And it's turning, like you said, a lot of people that are more in the center away.
And I actually believe that a lot of moderate Republicans actually held their nose and voted for Trump. Mm-hmm. But they were just so we cannot go this far left, you know, we almost, since he's the only real viable option on the right, we have to go with him.
So many of them that I've spoken to, they see Trump as being moderate, like, and which is really interesting. I mean, and they defend it, but it's like, again, it's the optics, and whether it's true or not. But if that's what people are perceiving it, if they're like, whoa, the left has gone so far left that Trump seems like the moderate candidate, then there's definitely an issue there, and I think needs to be addressed.
Can you
Colin's fighting up about from the start. True, getting back to both sides.
I would say items that I feel compromised.
I mean, in hindsight, it's easy to say that, but we were optimistic for a while. Do we not remember the joy? I'm an extremist. I am the most far left person.
The far left agenda would be like transgender rights, and I say that, please don't think that I'm saying there doesn't need to be acknowledgement of any person wherever they're at, whether it's LGBTQ+, transgender, minorities, whatever. I believe we all deserve equal human rights. But if your agenda is to focus on one group of people that kind of compromise, I think something less than 2% of the population, and you're neglecting something huge, I think you were the one that said, like, the economy, you're not going to get many people to go down your train of thought with that.
I feel like the Democratic Party was like, we're going to hit all of these left ideals. We're going to hit about trans rights. We're going to hit about women's rights. We're going to hit about all of this. And that's what kind of led things to the back burner. And the problem is when you do hit certain demographics, like you do want to send a message out to all women, you kind of forget the fact that like not all women want abortion, right? Sure, yeah. And by having that emphasis on like these pinpoint issues, you really do neglect them.
Abortion was like the biggest winning issue from Democrats, so much so that like Trump really, I say moderate on abortion, but Trump wasn't, Trump has kind of flipped off an abortion a few times, but obviously did not want to come off as a like extreme pro-life candidate, right? So
majority.
Yeah, and I mean, the exit polls showed that the two biggest issues Americans on the whole, all Americans cared most about was the economy and immigration. Right. And like the percentage that cared about things like abortion and race relations, like they were on the map, but they were so small in comparison to these bigger issues.
As well, but it's the economy.
I would say that I do hesitate to call it a left-wing agenda because it sounds kind of sinister when you say that, and the right-wing agenda, and it's almost like they're trying to infiltrate and control everything, and therefore they're bad, and we must destroy them. I don't really like that terminology, but as far as what I think, if we have to call it an agenda, what we see happening on the left is that they're really set on putting everything in terms of race and sex and sexual orientation, and it causes a lot of division, it causes tribalism, and again, I'm not saying that that's their intention. I'm not saying that's their agenda. I'm not saying that they've written it out like this is what we're going to do. Optically, that's how it looks. That's how people are interpreting it. And it wasn't very unifying for a lot of Americans. It wasn't the most important thing to a lot of Americans when we had things like immigration and the economy that it was affecting everybody and that everybody really cared about.
And now can the disagreeor step forward?
Oh boy, I see it.
Yeah, I heard the word of the day was optics. And it's interesting to me, just a quick survey. Does anybody think that Biden is a far left president?
Well, optics is what matters, unfortunately, when it comes to winning elections. Obviously, optics matter. Okay, Vosh moment, clip it, guys. Vosh moment.
No.
Right, exactly. And if you look on Fox News, you look on any right-wing media, they're labeling him as a socialist. So the optics of like Kamala was too far left or she was going too much into progressive values, no matter who it is, the candidate's going to be labeled this crazy far left extremist. So the optics, I think, are a little bit weird to be prioritizing how the right views Democratic candidates instead of what those Democratic candidates actually stand for. And to me, when we're just talking about the far left is discounting economic issues, that's really the only thing the far left was talking about.
You and me, I don't think you understand what I'm saying about tariffs. I'm saying businesses don't want it, multinational corporations don't want to invest in countries that are constantly having trade wars. If I have a business and I'm, in China, and I also, in part of my business is growing soybeans or whatever, I might not want to invest in, in the U.S. and China. I might not want to invest in the fucking U.S. because I know the U.S. might start a trade war with China, and then there's retaliatory tariffs against the U.S. that affect my soybean production. Like, what?
We want to see student loans be more forgiven. We want to see some sort of housing situation to the increasing rent. We want to see better climate measures so that way we can stop things like these California wildfires and other disasters across the country.
Yeah, building on that really quickly.
I think student loan forgiveness, even though I don't even think that's that objectionable policy, my understanding student loan forgiveness did not even pull very well.
A really illuminating moment for me personally was, it was like a week before the election or something, Kamala was being interviewed by somebody, and she was asked if she thought trans healthcare was like a human right, and she was, like you're saying, supposedly the progressive candidate. That's certainly the way the media, or a lot of the conservative media was labeling her. And she sort of waffled back and forth, and eventually she ended up
strongly support 30%, strongly somewhat disapprove 40%, neither, don't know. What do you want to do? Strike a deal to real plans with America, be exempt from tariffs for 4 years. I don't know if how do you strike you strike that deal with the U.S. government if you're a company. Trump leads in 4 years, and now you have exempt plus a good plan or tax breaks real. I don't know how often those deals happen. Obviously not every company is going to be able to make that deal. They don't have the leverage to make that deal. That's not.
It should be up to the states. It should be up to the states, right? And that's why it's interesting for me to hear that you guys thought it was, lean too left, when I know certain people who, didn't vote for Trump as a result of that, but were like, okay, Kamala clearly doesn't have my interest at heart as a trans person. You know what I mean? And while, yeah, somebody said that is a small demographic, it's still a demographic I think worth paying attention to.
I think a culture war is real, and we did not start that. The left did not start that. With advocacy, the right created a culture war in order to focus on these issues that are marginal. They are putting the focus on these issues, not the left. Like Trump ran an ad. It said Kamala is for them, right? Like playing on the whole gender, non-binary, transgender rights thing, right? If we keep playing into these culture war issues, it'll just lose elections, because what Kamala did is
feel less
go
safe
towards
than
the
the
right.
J6. I mean, the J6ers being free does not actually affect my personal safety in any way, but like, I don't think it's a good move regardless.
To fight against this label of radical, right? And in general, that's just not going to work, because you already have someone who's so far right in Donald Trump. She's never going to get elected running on a moderate campaign. You need to create enemies when you're in politics, and that's just the truth. We are the enemies of the right, and unfortunately, they have to be our enemies, because that's how politics works.
But we don't have to be the enemies of the people, and that's who's putting the commander-in-chief in office.
I want to build on that, because I don't blame the far left, because for me it was about immigration, it was about inflation, and I don't think the far left took us in the wrong direction on that. But I think we didn't draw the line on things. So like with immigration, none of us support illegal immigration. Yeah. Not a single person on the far left, far right, anybody. But we never made that position clear. It's more about we need to draw the line on some things, or the right will define it for us. We'll be playing defense the whole time.
I do think it's a very fair point to say that we are constantly playing defense and just responding to their ideas instead of creating our own. But I do think it's interesting. I would say most of us agree that Kamala was pretty moderate, and yet she lost the election. But you still say that 70% of the election being lost is because of progressives, when we weren't even running a candidate. Kamala's not a progressive. Republicans often will blame transgender people and blame
I mean, again, it's Kamala didn't speak out against the far left and out there, whatever. And then if she's not willing to do that, then optically it makes you look kind of bad. What's up, Rhetoric Twitcher? Welcome back. Actually, obviously, many on the left support illegal immigration. That's why we had so much of it. They wanted it. I don't think that's what IRI means. I mean, what do you mean by support illegal immigration? No one on the left wants illegal immigration in the sense that they wish there was more of it. They're semi in favor of or actually in the far left, they're obviously in favor of amnesty. They didn't close the border. They didn't even try. It's obviously not true that they didn't even try. Even Biden did shit to close the border and deport people. But which the far left got mad at him for, by the way. I'm fucked.
All minority groups and vilify them and us. And I see you kind of accepting that framework by blaming transgender people and progressive ideas for the loss of this election, when it was a moderate that lost.
So not in terms of the Democratic Party itself. Maybe they don't have a far left agenda, but do you think that there is a cultural far left agenda that might have turned people away from the Democratic Party?
I think agenda might be the wrong word.
Totally.
I think there might be a cultural sort of movement that is very leftist, extremely leftist at this moment. Yeah, but I also think that movement is sort of a reaction of the last few years. And I align myself with it because I see a lot of the things that are being fought for, and a lot of people that are fighting are things I believe in deeply. But sure, no, I absolutely, for the sake of the argument, yeah, I'm sure there are some people who that was a turnoff for. Yeah,
actually, speaking of agenda, I want to bring up something that you said earlier.
If the left went too far. Well, I mean, I'm on a moderate side for the most part here. I will say, I don't think IRI. I really don't think IRI is trying to blame transgender people for losing the election. He's just Kamala just did not have good enough responses to the men and women sports questions. They believe that there should be no board. That's that. No one who remotely supported Kamala Harris believes that there should actually be no borders. That's not true. No. Even these people up here, I don't think any of these people up here support no borders. No. It wasn't Kamala's fault. Biden and the wackos on the left doomed them real. I mean, I don't think you're entirely wrong. I think if Biden dropped out earlier, we obviously would have had a better chance, but are you sure? I am fairly certain.
Our agenda is making the rest of the party, and you look bad.
Maybe one of them's more crazy than I think.
Fighting for women's rights, which have been very much heavily under attack. Roe v. Wade was just abolished. I define my agenda as increasing economic opportunities for a shrinking middle class. I define my agenda as holding billionaires accountable, because clearly there's an issue with the distribution of wealth in this country. And I think that Trump is a product of this. Because people aren't happy with the middle class is shrinking, and Trump is over here blaming everyone else, when in reality, it's because he continues to give incredible tax breaks to the 0.01%. And I think it's funny that I'm actively trying to fight for the rights of you and you and you and you. But to you, I'm making.
I mean, the middle, depending, depending on what you mean by the middle class shrinking. The middle class, I think, technically has gone down, but a lot of that is because people are getting richer, right? Depends on what you define the middle class. It's a really hard question to determine like whether like real wages are rising, but Nonfon S Mumu, what the fuck? I don't know what you're trying to say. I don't get the. Anyway, and the tax cut to the rich thing is not like entirely wrong, but I mean, he expanded to the child tax credit though. That was good. I can give him credit for that. Voters could not unsee the night after night images of thousands of illegal polling over the border. Kamala could never have overcome that. If Biden dropped out earlier, I don't know.
You look bad.
So, and I'm glad you brought that up because I really, like I said, I think we all kind of agreed it's not what you're fighting for that we take issue with whatsoever. It's how people on the very far left, how they communicate it. They can come across as very
trickle-down economics. You'd have to define it more. Like, obviously, I don't like literally believe that like giving money to rich people or giving tax cuts to the rich is gonna trickle down to other people, but like in the sense of like, you know, can taxes on the rich be distortionary and distort incentives in a bad way? Like, yeah, can certain taxes on the rich be inefficient and therefore be overall a net negative to society for imposing them? Like, sure. So, yeah.
At a very divisive, very tribalistic, and very hateful towards anyone that doesn't automatically agree with them. Now, what's interesting is that there's clearly a huge division even within the far left and between the progressives, right? It's like the economic progressives and the cultural progressives. When you're talking about anything to do with the economy or distribution of wealth, that is more like the economic side of things. And then we have the more cultural side of things where they're really, really preoccupied with things like race and sex and sexual orientation. Now, those people exist, and I agree that I think that the right, the Republicans,
Federal
jumped
VAT
on that and exaggerated massively.
I probably agree.
And I also agree that the left didn't necessarily try to separate itself from that. They just kind of defended it. You know, they defended it more. They kind of dug their heels in deeper rather than saying, we don't want to actually focus on that. We want to focus on the economy. We want to focus on distribution of wealth. We want to focus on tax fairness. We want to focus on like school loans. We want to focus on all that because I think that would be way more unifying.
But you can't focus on one without the other. This country is not just economic and then social. It's socio-economic.
Liberty Twitcher, there are obviously, I would say like cases where, you know, the market fails. So there's probably justified like government intervention there. And then like, obviously, you know, the investments of rich people may not necessarily always trickle down, it benefit the public in the same way that government investment will, right? I would say there's going to be distributional effects that are probably going to not necessarily benefit a lot of people in the same way government spending can at least, not always can.
All of when this hasn't worked is when it comes to increasing legislation on welfare and creating welfare breaks. A lot of Republican rhetoric will be around people are career welfare people are just sitting on welfare, and they'll use a lot of stereotypes and stigmas that are around the black community and be able to kind of hijack racism and xenophobia to then in turn create economic policies that don't benefit anyone because the majority of people on welfare are actually white. So it's not like, so it's not like one and the same, and you can't separate it and say, oh, well, people who care about defining civil rights can be in one camp and people who care about defining economic rights are in another camp. It's one and the same. It's all the same issue.
It's not necessarily a left versus right division. It's really a populist versus institutionalist division. Even when we see like recent events with Luigi and people on two different sides that are agreeing that sometimes these actions feel like there's a guttural sense of justice. And we could argue whether or not, you know, these things are ethical, but there's clear support amongst right-wing coalitions and left-wing coalitions that I'm getting screwed over by institutions right now. So when you say progressives are trying to like demonize people or not like accept people who don't automatically agree with them, I'd say that's not the case. I think that progressives and people that are on the populist right have a lot more in common
100%. I so agree with that. I so agree with that. And I want to clarify that the only time the division really comes in is when there's a hard focus on race.
I agree with that too. I just think that's a bad thing.
And sex. That's when it seems to be very, very divisive, because if I try to say anything that's a little bit anti-feminist, even if it's not, it's like, oh my God, you're on the right, you're an anti-feminist. And it's like, no.
I was just simply going to say, you guys are not wrong.
Ban rights.
I don't disagree with anything that you just said in your last statements. But I think what we need to understand is that word we've been using, agenda, honestly is synonymous with marketing in this particular conversation. Kamala and the DNC raised more than $1 billion to get her message out there. What was the message? That to me is the problem. But that's a
moderate message. Like, that's on y'all. That was
Kamala has a moderate I would agree, because the messaging from the DNC was that she wasn't Trump, which seemed like the same thing they pushed with Hillary, and it was like, at least that was the progressive perception of the situation, 100%.
At least we have an agenda. I feel like a lot of the moderate agenda is just like, we're not that, and we don't like that.
I do have issue with this, though, because it's like some progressives...
boy, do I have an agenda for you. Boy, do I have an agenda. Okay, it's called DBCFT. It's called LVT. It's called NGDP targeting. It's called It's called unconditional cash transfers.
Separate themselves from moderates.
Ranked choice voting and or some other voting system, proportional voting system, different ways to get to the.
So they're like, well, that's on you guys. Like, no, we're all on the same team. Like, I feel like a lot of progressives didn't find a reason to support Kamala.
Common
No, I get
hemisphere,
that. You just said
exactly.
that
Yep.
70%,
One unified American market. Yep.
It's 70% progressive ideals fault for losing. I'm just
You
going
have to
to
understand when I said that. You have to understand when I said that. I am in no way, shape, or form attacking the progressive agenda. There's that word again, right?
Repeal
what
the
I'm saying
Constitution.
is that the overwhelming majority of the country can't process what it is that the progressives would like to enact while they're empowered.
Well, that's not-
and I fully feel like 50% of something is better than 100% of nothing. And right now we have 100% of zero. So we have these progressive ideals, these progressive ideologies, philosophies, this progressive morality that I don't really have
Unironically,
any
Kelvin
issue
McKay,
with.
that's me.
But what good does it do us in our pockets?
Unironically.
Why do Democrats not align themselves with that then? If there's no issue with these policies, with these ideas, with these philosophies, that's my question.
I guess I would come back with, you realize that in like the last 100 million elections in the United States, Democrats always win the popular vote, except for this year. To me, that's the most telling statistic of anything that came out of this election, was that the majority of people in this country are now saying, whatever's over here on the left is just too much.
And I would argue that there's no one who can
Technically, Donald Trump didn't win a majority, just a plurality. He only got 49.9% of the popular vote. Okay, so technically,
It just feels like you're blaming us when the candidate who didn't win the popular vote isn't even progressive.
Biden won the most votes in American history, and he ran on a very progressive campaign. Did he live up to a lot of those promises?
No.
He did not. But he ran on a very progressive agenda, and he got the most votes in American history.
But you realize that the Democratic Party was always known as the party of the people, the small business guys, the working class people, unions, right? So what does it say to you guys that most people have now associated the Democratic Party with wealth and elitism, right?
But that's a cultural issue.
That's why I'm talking about the marketing aspect of it all.
You're over here.
You're over here. I agree with what you're saying 100%. I completely agree. I completely agree. No, you're absolutely right.
Can you erase that?
Destroyed, debunked.
Y'all better leave that in there.
Moderate Democrats have shifted too far to the right.
What counts as the issue is, it's less that like moderate Democrats have shifted too far to the right, and it's more that just more people are in the Democratic Party now because Trump is so fucking schizo insane that we have like moderate people in the party.
I myself have shifted to the right, and it is very uncomfortable for me to be like, wow, why are they looking more reasonable? Why are they easier to talk to? Why do I like them more? I've been a liberal my whole life. I mean, my whole family is Democrat. I've always been on the left. And so just for me personally, I know people who are similar to me, where they've been voted Democrat their whole life and they've been liberal, and we're like,
I won the
they look,
popular vote.
not the extremists, obviously, but there's a lot of MAGA people who are awesome. Like, they're so nice and they're so fun to talk to, and they're so willing to listen to me. And so in that case, I feel like, man, I just kind of do better maybe in the middle or a little bit more to the right, because I'm having a hard time having conversations that feel constructive with people on the left.
Can you talk about like what issues that you feel like you shifted more right on?
So when it comes to things like, let's say, immigration, people on the left, if you bring it up, they're like, it's not a problem. It's not a problem. Like immigration.
I think it's a problem.
That's awesome. So glad that people can see that there are people out there who are more on the.
I was gonna say I don't know how many people say like the immigration thing like isn't a problem. Like the asylum system isn't a problem. I don't think there are many leftists out there. Actually, there might be leftists out there saying that. There aren't many moderates out there saying that. Nothing happens, then Hitler gets elected. Liberals can do nothing wrong. Real.
Progressive side who say there's a problem, because when I've spoken with people, they kind of want to downplay it. They want to justify it. They want to say these people are helping the economy. They're not committing that many crimes compared to Americans.
But that's so true.
That is true. Those things are true. But it's still a problem. We can't.
Based. I don't know. Like they might not say it's as big of a problem as people on the right do, obviously, but like. I like the way I would slice it up. Like obviously, like I don't think the chaotic nature of our, the fucked up nature of our asylum immigration system is good, but I don't think the illegal immigrants are having like massively detrimental effects in the economy. Like that's usually like.
Sustain 11 million new citizens.
I disagree with that completely. I think that there's so many areas across the country that are
I'm not a leftist. Don't worry.
in order to make those economies thrive.
Oh, by the way, just point this out, okay? Trump's putting tariffs on all the Colombian flowers before Valentine's Day. Incels win again. I'm not gonna have a Valentine's, okay? Unaffected. And guess what? You think I drink coffee? I don't drink fucking coffee from Colombia, okay? I drink Monster Energy. Incels. Unaffected, incel W, easy win.
That's true, but I think that we can't have like a completely open border policy.
Nobody's
like,
advocating that's a straw man. It's not
I
an
think
open
my
border
issue
policy.
is that we have a very hard, like the amount of homelessness of American citizens right now is so
Did you read
high
the new
and
shooters
middle
manifest?
class
I
shrinking,
skimmed
and I would
it.
like to focus
This
on
is wild.
economic rights for current citizens before trying to include so many.
Kim New York is
and
saying
I would
copy
say that's
it.
more
Yeah,
nationalist angle than I would
I
take
know.
on
I
when it
noticed
comes to-
that. I'm as bad at speaking, but I accidentally did a accent. Hassan and Destiny was named it. Wait, really? I didn't see that. W
the
incels
overall
real.
well-being of people in general, especially when I put myself in a place where I'm coming from a destabilized nation that has to do a lot with U.S. foreign policy. What would I do to protect my family's best interests? I don't want to vilify those people or say that they're criminals when it's a civic violation. People who run a stoplight, we wouldn't call it criminal, even though they've technically broken the law. I wouldn't call it criminal.
No, the vilification is just end that, cut that. But at the same time, it is an issue that we need to address. Them as people is not the issue, but we as a country have not really come up with a great plan for immigration.
Yeah. So then that sounds
Oh,
more
Destiny
moderate to
make
me,
up
like
a Vosh sending a girl's news around is way worse than short stack goblin porn. I don't know if Vosh has an excuse now, okay, to not talk to Destiny ever. Is there a particular group or people that radicalize you the most? Candace Owens, Ethan Ralph, Nick Fuentes, Turkey Tom, Mr. Beast. This guy is trolling. iDubbbz. This is a troll. This is a troll. What did Mr. Beast do to him? Did you read his response to Trump? Yeah, I read most of it. It's just him saying, oh, I'm not going to shake hands with a slaver.
sounds a little bit like I can have a conversation about that. That's just one example of it's because I'm not sure they have to feel like they have to defend their stance so strongly that anything that challenges a little bit they take as being like an attack on them. And it's like, no, I just really want to discuss the issue, especially when you can see how big of a problem it is for so many people in the country where they really have strong feelings about immigration. And if we just kind of say,
did I say sky?
well, no, I look at it differently, and no, you're dramatizing it, and no, maybe you're just racist or whatever it might be. I that's kind of where I kind of split from.
Well,
the
it is rooted
liberal
in a
side.
lot of racism. I mean, you don't think Trump saying that Haitian immigrants are eating cats and dogs
Yeah,
isn't
for sure.
racist?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Statements like that are racist. But just because he says that doesn't mean that people who maybe are questioning the way that we're dealing with immigration right now are automatically.
But Trump is
everyone's
defining a
questioning the way we deal
rhetoric.
with immigration.
I mean,
hope so,
but
yeah.
when Trump made that statement, like hate crimes against Haitian immigrants increased in the areas in which he made that statement. So people are.
After Trump's comments in September, more than 30 bombs targeted schools. Government, Well, these incidents indicate high intentions. They do not necessarily qualify as hate crimes.
Listening to Trump and agreeing with Trump. So when the leader of your party is espousing such a hateful and racist rhetoric, I think that as people who know that to be untrue, we really have to fight against that, and we have to fight hard because people are friggin' listening to him.
I think this goes back to the success of populist messaging, right? So Trump is running a populist campaign where who you're pitting the people against are people coming from other countries. We can't support our veterans. We can't support our homeless because of these people coming from other places.
Which I
And
do, yeah.
and that's the rhetoric that is winning people over because they clearly see that they're getting screwed over in this economy. And they're trying to figure out who can I blame for that. The people that are easy to blame are people that you don't know, that you might not share a similar culture or language with. Or people that you've never seen before because you've grown up in like a very traditionalist, homogenous small town. And someone's coming over here wearing a dress, what's going on? They must be the issue of why I can't pay for my groceries. All of this is like the demonizing of marginalized groups that has nothing to do with economic output.
I mean, the only issue there is that like the populist ideas are just stupid and bad. Like that's the, that's the issue you run into. Like, tariffs are like a populist policy, but like they're just stupid and bad. Like wealth taxes are a populist policy, but like they're just like stupid and bad. Not as bad as tariffs though. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think for a lot of people it's a sort of cultural thing, but I think the reason I stayed standing was just my idea that, anyone who truly sort of believes these things isn't really good. I mean, if they learn things are going to shift in directions, obviously, but aren't going to shift necessarily too far in the opposite direction, in my experience. Obviously, there are exceptions and that kind of stuff, but I don't think necessarily there's some, big issue with the moderate left in general.
I don't understand how moderate Democrats could have shifted too far to the right when there's only one, and I can only speak personally right here, but there's only one issue that I probably would have to agree with Trump on at this point, and I don't like the way he handles it, but I do like the marketing, which is America first, right? So as we know, we've had these horrific fires blow through Altadena and the Palisades and all over California just within the last few days, right? Devastating communities, right? Do you realize the amount of money that we sent to Ukraine, how that could have taken care of? Like
dog, kill me, really, bro. I mean, the messaging works, but it doesn't make it any less like stupid. Dog, kill me. I'm more in favor of moderate localism as opposed to progressive localism. Kill me, kill me, kill me.
Building people's homes, like literally rebuilding everybody's homes. not even costing the insurance companies and all the hassle that everyone's going to have to go through just to get their homes rebuilt, if they can actually do it, right?
Well, let's see how Trump helps them, since he's so American. I'm very excited to see how Trump sends aid to California.
I have zero faith that Trump is going to do the right thing on almost anything, but I'm just saying the messaging of America
I am a radical anti-localist.
Resounds very loudly now and very
localist.
emphatically with the people, and that gets back to the whole popular vote thing. Most Americans are now saying, dude, we've got millions and millions of people coming across the border who are just draining the resources of this country. I happen to be married to a beautiful woman from Ghana, West Africa, 22 years in a month. When we first got married, financially we didn't have much, and that's all great. We built a life together, but we had almost next to nothing. But we had to pay an attorney to do all the legal machinations. And I think it took something like 10 years. She was naturalized in the LA Convention Center downtown. So I personally can identify with a level of frustration when it comes to basically people just flooding across the border. But I also acknowledge there's a huge racial component to it, because why do we not speak to the northern border at all?
Yeah.
For those of us who have been across the border to Canada several times.
No, they do, but only when you mention tariffs on Canada. Whenever you mention tariffs on Canada, now all of a sudden it's actually we need to tariff Canada because they're letting too many fucking Indians in or whatever.
How easy it is to go and come. So personally, if I was a terrorist or if I wanted to do America harm, I wouldn't even be thinking about the southern border.
At one point, Trump called Ghana and several other African countries, garbage countries or something. Yes, that was
maybe I'm ignorant on this. Do we have mass immigration coming down from Canada?
I can't.
Why would they want to come here?
With regards to the racial element.
I think that a lot of Trump's rhetoric.
Well, I think there's not nearly as much immigration coming from Canada, but I think the reason we still get stung isn't because Canadians illegally immigrate. It's that other, I think a lot of Indians legally immigrate to Canada and then illegally move to the U.S. is, I think, typically the route that happens there. But it's not that many. It's like less than 10. It's like less than 5,000 a month. I think I think it was 51st state. True, but if they were the 51st state, the Indian immigrants wouldn't have to illegally immigrate to Canada and the U.S. They could just illegally immigrate to the U.S. And that would be based because I am an anti-border leftist, as these people state.
Is taking these kind of the fascist playbook and using it in an American context when we as a country are very kind of confused and angry. And he's doing
didn't JD Vance call him? I don't know first of all, who is they? No one denies that they were fucking with him. The dispute is over whether they killed him, right? I don't think anyone denies that the FBI did not like MLK. It even told him to kill himself. Oh, Jews, of course. But
it's clear that Trump is a fascist, and I think that giving a fascist or someone who wants to
No. How? No. That stream. God damn it. Is this stream nuked yet? No, short stream is not nuked yet. We'll see.
A fascist, any concession on literally anything is playing into that fascism. I think you have to be so
That's true, and okay.
Powerful and proactive with your defense against fascism. So I think in that sense, the concessions towards the right are moving because the right is just moving in a direction we cannot go. So that's why I think that the party is going a little bit too far that way.
But the concessions I don't think you're giving enough credit to the people who are already on the right, who are now headed extreme right. It's not necessarily the people who are on the left shifting over to the right. It's the people who we once considered like reasonable, rational human beings, just right of center, are now like...
Yeah, so what I said earlier, a lot of this is just it's just the Democratic Party tent getting bigger because Trump is insane. And, moderates who previously didn't like Trump are now considering themselves more part of the Democratic Party than just, Oh, did the YouTube source stream not go down? It just went... I have it open on my phone so I can see if it goes down. It might not have. Nonfon, what do you want the consequences of the world shifting conservative along from the... What do you think the consequences of the world shifting conservative along with the new breeds of fascism being born will have us in the next decade? I imagine countries will be more isolationist, first of all. That seems like we're on a new anti-free trade thing, not just with Trump, but with other conservative people who are all isolationist. But thanks to Devil, yeah. Shorts is still here, good. I don't know, not good. I assume that we'll probably backslide on climate change even more. Not ideal, subpar. I mean, I'm a based neoliberal, so I don't think inequality is an issue. Inequality is based, but I imagine inequality would get worse. Yeah, I do. Okay, to be clear. I'm half trolling. Okay, inequality can be an issue. Okay.
But that's fascism. That's how that works. If you give a mouse a cookie, like that's what's going to continue to happen. So we as a party have to pull everyone back towards the center. We really do. And that does not start with concessions that way.
So can you just give a couple examples of what you see as being the most alarming fascist elements that we are contributing to by potentially moving towards the right?
I think that agreeing with Trump on the issues of social justice, like social rights and civil rights, should not be a question. The fact that we're starting to question again Roe v. Wade, the fact that we are pulling critical race theory and teaching from class.
I mean, Democrats ran pretty clearly on codifying Roe v. Wade. I don't know, like the Democrats were not questioning Roe v. Wade at all, I don't think.
The fact that the dictionary has been banned in several schools in Florida, like the dictionary, like if that ain't some shit from Fahrenheit 451, I don't know what is. And the idea that like, oh, there's some good people and we have to like try and talk to them and find a middle ground, they don't want to compromise with us.
Kamala Harris was a terrible presidential candidate.
Are you fucking kidding? Everyone but IRI, really? What's your definition? Terrible? Terrible? Really? Terrible? Terrible? No shot, dude.
So yeah, I'm just going to get us started because I feel like I have a pretty quick little diatribe here. I just feel like she was very uninspiring. I don't think she spoke very well to the working class American. I think it's clear she divided the party in kind of in two. And even though it seems like a lot of people want the same things, she raised a lot of money and where to go, right, towards a bunch of commercials that didn't really convince anybody and campaigning around a bunch of states that didn't amount to anything. So yeah, I think the Dems have a terrible habit of betting way too hard. I don't think that you can just use the fact that she lost as evidence that like all of it was terrible. She was terrible from the start. Their campaigning. I mean, their campaigning in states probably helped down ballot races even. Like Democrats, Democrats did way better because of Kamala Harris in the House and Senate than they were expecting them to do with Biden, right? Like Biden's internal polling show them like losing the House and Senate by way more. Hard on a candidate, there sure can't fail.
She wasn't a great candidate, but she wasn't bad either. I just don't think terrible is such a strong word. Netherlands is pretty high level of inequality, but generally people on the poor end of the curve feel decent, so it's not much of a problem. Well, yeah, I love establishing a floor for the standard of living, okay? I love welfare, and I love a baseline for the standard of living. Okay, base.
It's interesting you say that because a part of me wonders, did anyone really like bet on Kamala? Because
when is good still losing everything? When the alternative is losing everything way more. What do you mean?
I'm gonna freaking eat my words.
Respect that.
I totally did.
I mean, I obviously think she was also good just in that like her policies are better than Donald Trump and her character is better than Donald Trump. But like, regardless, the candidate part.
I'll just be forthcoming with this. I mean, I advocated for Kamala. I disagreed with her very strongly. I made that known in a lot of Jubilee videos. But I still thought that she would win. I really believe that neoliberalism was more palatable than the neo-fascists that we're seeing with the Trump campaign.
That's totally true.
Okay. And I think that that's really indicative to how much things need to change amongst the DNC in order to continue to win.
So much as it's not Kamala Harris as a person, it's what she runs on. And I think that if she ran on a progressive campaign, she would have done great. And she elected a great vice president as well. I think Tim Walz is an amazing, amazing person who polls very, very high. The ideas that he espouses are great. And then he gets attacked on the news and he's like, since when is it so bad to feed people lunch? School lunch. Oh, that's radical, then I'm radical, right? I think that Kamala Harris' messaging was the issue, not so much.
Good. Okay. What are we? Okay. First of all, the word they're using is terrible. So I don't think it is terrible. Terrible. It's a strong word for our queen, Kamala Harris. Okay. I don't know what we're defining as good. I mean, like in my mind, Democrats were already like so fucked because of inflation and partly because of the border as well. That like, I don't know if we could have done any better. We could have done much better. Like obviously there are things Kamala didn't do ideally that like, I don't know, like I think they're comparing her to how Obama or Biden did, which she did terrible comparatively. I don't know. She probably could have done it one if she talked about how land value taxes, destination-based cash flow tax, and how tariffs appreciate the exchange rate. This is accurate. This is truth. Kamala would have won if she implemented my exact policies, which all poll super well and are all great.
Kamala Harris as a candidate.
Well, I have to say.
By the way, I need to make another poll for people to like this stream
Biden
on YouTube.
And Trump, and Biden just clearly showed the decline of life and so forth. I was on the phone with my older brother, who's probably a little further left center than I am, and I was telling him, that this actually could be the best thing that happens to us, because now the huge donor class is going to cut off the funds, and once the funds get cut off, that's when we start making the hard decisions like Biden dropping out of the race. I said, but the worst thing that we can do
Destiny want to run a political. Yeah, no, I have seen Destiny's content. I've seen clips of him on Twitter saying he wants like a House race to be handed to him so he can canvass for them or whatever.
Kamala Harris. Have an open Democratic convention. Let the people choose who's going to represent us in this election. And I believe we could have won if we had chosen the correct rep. And I'm not stumping for any one particular person, but I am saying that if we all got behind someone probably other than Kamala, we could have done well. And by the way, it's not because Kamala's an awful person. It's not because Kamala's a woman. I honestly believe, like you said with the last prompt, America still struggles with a high degree of racism.
I want to discuss Kamala a little bit, not really debate, but just
it would have been exponentially tougher to.
We're willing to. After this video, we can for a little bit, which we still have like an hour left.
Get Kamala in there, then
I need to have the VOD of it be uninterrupted for this. Fuck, I did not want to click on mini player.
In a time when...
Oh my god. For the reaction video.
And I think that that's really indicative to how much
happens to chosen the correct, and I'm a spiritual guy fighting Satan, and Satan being Trump. I'd rather
real
the dog
accurate
be president of the United States over Donald Trump.
I would rather a rock with googly eyes be the president over Donald Trump.
I think that, like, just to play Kamala defense here, I guess, she only had 90 days. So it's like, I don't think that she necessarily ran like the most terrible she could do. I think she was really pressured in order to take a lot of interest from the consulting class. A lot of people who were very wealthy saying, hey, we're giving you all this money, can you placate to our needs? And I think she kind of threw the American people away in fear that she wasn't going to do too well. But I think what you were saying, like, if Kamala had a genuine campaign, if Biden said 2 years in, hey, I'm not going to run for a second term, I'm just going to have my first term, then we have that open primary. We have time to really talk about as a party, how do we want to move forward? But I think that with the time frame that Biden forced us into by not pulling out till the very last minute, I think Kamala was really the only choice.
So 2 points that I would make. The first thing is Kamala had 4 years to make a case. That's the first thing. The second thing for me is she didn't do an interview for over a month after she became the nominee. And then when she did the interview, she did it with Wall sitting next to her. It almost seemed
this is the biggest deal to her loot. No shot, dude. No shot, dude. How dare you compare us to Trump, largest single donor campaigner? Real.
like I need the white guy sitting next to me to legitimize what's going on here.
Well, I think
instead
she
of standing there on her own backbone and getting her message across 3 days after the nomination and not a month plus after the nomination.
I will say that was a mistake on her part, but I do think it's interesting how frequently the right referred to her as a DEI candidate.
So offensive.
Even though she had the longest career in politics out of any of the presidential candidates running this.
Well, so did Hillary Clinton, right?
I know, and it's so interesting that they've kind of demonized this term DEI to basically mean a minority or a woman has taken a job from a somehow more qualified white person just because they're a minority, when in fact she is the most qualified.
100%.
But I do think she should have been more proactive at the beginning of her, as soon as Biden announced he wasn't running again. She should have hit the ground running because she didn't have that much time.
Well.
All right. Based, IRI, come on, let's hear the Kamala defense. I love it.
So look, the prompt is she's a terrible candidate. Was she perfect? No, but she was thrust into an impossible situation, in my opinion. She had 107 days, and some of you guys have made the argument, giving her some credit. And I think Biden is the one to shoulder the blame, because he should have known a year out, hey, maybe I'm declining a bit and I shouldn't run again. I love Biden. I think he did a wonderful job. He governed us through the pandemic. He passed a bunch of legislation that will help us for the next decade. And that's what his campaign ran on. And the American people, they were just tuned out on that. And so she, with 100 days, what is she supposed to do? But let's give her some credit. She got people pretty fired up. Remember the whole Brat Summer thing?
Kamala is Brat.
Right? Like,
Like,
the law was announced, everyone was
right,
so
and
excited.
I want to bring this up. That was one of her major decisions, and she made the right decisions. I don't think she had the best answers for some simple questions like, how are you going to bring down the grocery store prices? So,
Would you change anything in the Biden administration? No.
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
I agree.
That was, to me, that was when she absolutely lost the election.
And I just have to point this out, that we're in the middle ground. That was a moderate decision. And that's what we're trying to disagree with, is just blindly saying that I agree with the status quo, I want to make any big changes.
Biden was actually super all progressive earlier? Or no, I guess he said Biden ran a progressive campaign. Not that he necessarily was progressive, but...
I'm afraid to say bold action because it's not palatable. It's not optically favorable. If I talk about progressive policies, that was the decision that she made that lost her the election.
And it's interesting because Trump isn't moderate. Trump on the right is a very right-wing extremist, and yet he was able to get elected. So if a right-wing extremist can get elected on a campaign that is rooted in fear, how come a left-wing extremist can't get elected on a campaign that is rooted in hope?
At the end of the day, I think Kamala Harris was a candidate that started off very well, and then she became terrible. I don't think she was...
Well, the thing is, there was no solution to the grocery store prices, but Trump lied his ass off and said, I'll bring them down.
Sure,
no
why
problem.
didn't she keep lying?
Well, maybe she should have lied.
I wondered that same thing myself 8 times.
I don't think you have to lie. Why can't you actually tackle grocery store prices?
Mason, in an ideal world, you're absolutely right, but this is the game, brother. This is the...
Well, what do you want when she had the progressive answer to the grocery store prices, which is I mean, people frame it as price controls, but I mean, it wasn't real. I mean, it was anti-price gouging laws that like 40 states already have, but like people freaked the fuck out about it. There were so many fucking news columns about, oh my God, Kamala doing price controls, evil communism, far left evil, communist, far left evil. Like, I don't think the progressive answer on grocery prices is swaying people. Heck. Although I honestly don't know. It could just be the person saying it. Trump also proposed price controls. He said we're going to cap the interest rate on credit cards, and people don't give a shit about that. Anyway,
You're on that side.
Can we have Michael? Can we?
I'm not saying it's right or I like it,
Kamala would have won.
Strategy.
9 out of
Kamala would have won if she said we're going to nationalize American oil, and then we're going to invest the profits into a sovereign wealth fund, and we're going to give payments, and we're going to use it to fund a UBI. She would have won if she did that. Okay.
10 people don't understand macroeconomics.
Right.
Yeah.
And you have to be able to explain to people how and why your prices are actually going to go down. I guess if you're anyone other than Donald J. Trump, because he can say anything and he has a whole contingent of people that just believe what he said, which is sad, but that's a whole other conversation. Kamala, as intelligent as I know she is, I just know she is. I've never had a conversation with her, but there's just clearly a high level of intelligence there. She never, in my opinion, conveyed in simple terms, how am I going to make your lives better? And how am I going to protect you?
I think nationalized oil sovereign wealth fund would be required just the UBI. Well, that's just a way to fund the UBI, right? I'm just saying, I'm printing money. Well, I mean, sure. But.
Again, we're back to marketing. The marketing was awful.
All right, let's move on to the next prompt. Thank you.
I'm not saying you should lie. I don't think you should lie. I'm just saying you will get catch
Lie on your taxes. Lie on your.
I'm not saying it's cool. I'm just saying it clearly works. Exactly.
Hey, before we go any further, we want to take a moment to say thanks so much to Shaderr News.
Sponsored in my reaction
For supporting
content.
our group with us on this episode. Now, let's get into it.
The Republican Party appeals more to the average American.
I mean, evidently.
Yeah, I think it's obvious that the Republican Party appeals more to the average American because I think our Congress is a reflection
Shut up, MMTer. Shut up.
of ourselves. We vote for who we want in office. It's clear that the Republicans won a popular vote in recent times, and it's unfortunate, but it's just a fact. I feel like as America's current state, the Republican Party is the party that says it's for the people. And even though it's racist and like sexist, like all the isms and like all the bad things, I think we also have to realize that a lot of people in America are also those things. There's a reason why Trump won on his MAGA campaign. It's,
Popular vote too.
Yeah.
Popular vote.
I disagree with labeling the American people as misogynistic or racist. I'm not saying that's what you're outright saying, but I really think Trump played into a populist message, and I sound like a broken record continuing to say that, but Trump identified, you guys rightfully feel that you're being screwed over, it's the Democrats' fault. And he did a great job of messaging that over and over and over again for every single issue. And I think the Democrats need to learn from that playbook of properly villainizing the right, instead of just saying, hey, we're not them, vote for us, everything's gonna be fine, everything's okay, inflation's going down, y'all will survive as long as you vote us in again. We'll save democracy.
Well, to give ourselves a little credit, we have a heavier lift. We're trying to actually do something, whereas like the Republicans are just complaining about
That's
stuff
all
a
they
lot.
do. That's their whole.
Right. They're like, let's go
Real
back to how it was, how it was. We're like,
hacker-based.
no, we want to try to do some incredible things with this country. We want to bring in more people. But the Republicans have done a good job of coming up with boogeymen for people to blame their problems on. What I've realized is Americans do not want to look in the mirror and blame that guy for their problems. So it's trans people, it's these immigrants, and we don't have good boogeymen. You guys brought up Mark Cuban a few times, and I think we're off on this on the left, because I know it sounds weird, but Americans like these billionaires. Look at Elon Musk. Like they look at these guys as rock stars, and we here bash them all day long. And I understand, I support the wealth inequality is ridiculous, but Americans don't make that connection. I think we got to really chill, pump the brakes on attacking these billionaires, because it's just not resonating with the American people. We can come up with a boogeyman. I don't know what that is right now.
Well, our boogeyman is.
I mean, like, obviously, you can play into a populist message by attacking billionaires or whatever, and attacking corrupt billionaires and rent-seeking in the government where they are. I don't know why. Listen, I'm all for attacking billionaires when they work with Trump. You should attack, but you should call them an oligarchy when they work with Trump, okay? I'm fine with calling America an oligarchy now that Trump is in office and has 14 billionaires in his cabinet, okay? I don't know. I don't know if Americans relate that much to billionaires. They might find. I mean, there's some people who are like, oh, you're vilifying success or whatever, but these leftists don't want to scapegoat boogeyman. They literally believe billionaires are evil. Well, that's true. Well, yeah. I mean, they're talking about effective optics and whatever, but yeah, they do believe that there is no moral billionaire. So there is also that. But right now I'm giving them benefit of the doubt because they're talking about like optics or whatever. So like
Trump. And we've heard so much negativity ad nauseum, just day in, day out, minute by minute about Trump. Oh my God, Trump, farted in his office. I mean, literally, it's like the dumbest stuff you just hear all day long about Trump. I have zero love for Trump, but I get so tired of hearing about all the things that he does wrong from the mainstream media. I can see why most people are just seriously like turned off. Like if they're actually attacking this man as much as they do, he must be something special. Yeah. I can almost see that rationale going on in the mind.
And that's what they do in cults too. Like that's part of like the more we're attacked, the better we're doing because we're on this path and the non-believers don't. Like it's such a heavily studied. It is psychological. He is kind of brainwashing people a little bit, but it's working.
Yeah, I think it took me a minute to come over from there.
Hell, even the right doesn't now. They just go after woke socialist tech companies. That's true.
Energetic, emotional sound bites and talking points work, unfortunately. I think especially to the average person who's too busy working 9 to 5 to really be overly politically educated. You know what I mean?
Like I'm from Louisiana. A lot of people down there, you don't really look for reading. You look for the sound bites. You look for the emotional clips, and that stuff, it works. And it works because it tags into the pathos of what people believe in. It's like what they want to vote for and look for. I just think it's reflective of America because, of course, the South is always going to be.
I will say, okay. Both Bernie and Warren did underperform Kamala in this election, okay? So populism destroyed, leftism destroyed.
Cool. Yeah, I think it's just reflective of how America is.
I think it's deeper than America, to be honest. I think it's human. I think it's human to get riled up and get emotional because you care deeply about something. You know what I mean? I think the people on the right have a far better understanding of that.
And I think we're all hugging. We're all saying, yeah, the right's so bad. Kumbaya, blah, blah, blah. But I really think that a lot of it is moderate's fault for why people are viewing Republicans as these great people. And I think it's because people view...
I don't think about Republicans being great people.
That's what people that are of the working class, that's the prompt, is that people feel that the Republican Party better represents the average American. And the reason why is because the DNC for so long has placated to moderate views on how we're going to change our rhetoric, how we're going to change our marketing. We don't want to be controversial. We want everything focus tested. Trump went on podcasts. He tried to change the culture. He tried to change the way that people viewed him. And he used that populist message in order to build the flames of his campaign. And that's something that I think can rely heavily on the blame of moderates, not necessarily saying y'all, but moderate consulting class that usually is being paid back.
Well, I wonder when the Republican working class will realize he just doesn't care about them. I'd love to see the day.
Why did Biden, who you've already called a moderate, I believe all of you referred to him as a moderate, how did he win Georgia?
Because he ran a progressive agenda. Biden ran on eliminating student loans. Yes, he's done a lot for that, but he hasn't done significantly what he
did a lot of that.
He also ran on eliminating student loans. Yes, he's done a lot for that, but he hasn't done significantly what he promised to do.
When he tried to do it, the Supreme Court, my understanding is Biden basically did as much as he could until the Supreme Court shut him down, at which point he continued doing what he could. That's my understanding. I will defend Biden until I die.
Also ran on solving the housing crisis. We've seen housing prices just continue to inflate. These are issues where...
I mean, I have no clue if Biden ran on that. But he did. He also did do stuff on fucking... on housing. I mean, not like visible stuff, but Biden's moves in my roundup yesterday. I'll quote some excerpts in a plan again here from that plan. Oh, Air 404. God damn it. Hold on, let me. Okay, fuck you. Stop like notification. Paul Kerwin and Noah Smith were live. What the fuck? I missed this? That would have been awesome to watch. Okay, anyway. The Department of Housing and Urban Development is announcing the availability of $100 million to communities to identify and remove barriers to affordable housing, production and preservation. The Department of Treasury and Housing and Urban Development announcing a major improvement to the Federal Financing Bank multifamily risk sharing program that would provide greater interest rate predictability for state and local housing finance agencies, Transportation Infrastructure Finance Innovation Act, Railroad Rehabilitation, blah, 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 use loans for conversion projects that may be eligible for categorical exclusions. The Advisory Council on Historic Preservation proposed a new tool that would accelerate historic preservations for millions of federally funded, licensed, or owned housing units. HUD anticipates finalizing a rule to update its mandate to... Jesus, I can't fucking read. Finalizing a rule to update its manufactured home construction and safety standards. A new rule finalized would enable duplexes, triplexes, and fourplexes to be built under the current HUD code for the first time. And then there's more stuff, but like, oh yeah, thanks for archiving the 404 version. Okay, what about like
If you run on an agenda like that and you're not living up to those promises, people see it as hypocritical. And Kamala ran nowhere near in the same forms of rhetoric that Biden did. Biden also ran on the border. He said we need to chill out on all of the internment camps, jailing up kids. This is all terrible. As soon as he comes in, he's utilizing a lot of the same Trump policies. And that's something that the American people can read through and be like, oh, so that actually is the solution.
My understanding is he did repeal a lot of the executive orders that Trump had on the border, right? That were the kids in cages, right? And then he reinstituted some of them later on when the border became a big issue. But I don't think Biden ever stooped close to the level of Trump. I don't know. I could be wrong on that, but.
If both parties are doing it, why don't I go with the party who's actually doubling down and saying this is my policy?
Biden administration held more kids actually than the Trump administration.
And Barack Obama deported more people than any president.
Because held more kids as a percentage, or like as a percentage of people coming over, just the absolute number. I'd imagine the absolute number was higher because illegal immigration as an absolute number was
Biden
higher.
administration held more kids actually than the Trump administration.
And Barack Obama deported more.
True, based on removals, which require a court order. However, for returns primarily involving Canadians apprehended at the border, he did not. Rights groups, including ACLU, labeled him deporter-in-chief. Real. Nonfon is the border czar under Kamala. Real. Accurate.
For people than any president.
And I will let 20 million illegal immigrants in a day. A day.
Get over here.
But you're right. But we got whooped on the border. People who voted like with the border as their number one issue completely voted for Trump.
In Pennsylvania.
Well, and that's why you're seeing the rightward shift, shall we say, from our Democratic moderates, because that's where the people are at. They've been convinced, whether right or wrong, that there's a problem on the border and that Biden's policy didn't work. But and last year, you keep bringing up populism. I agree with you. Populism is great, but we are the establishment. We're fighting for the government. We're fighting for bigger government. It's easy when you're on the other side and like we need the government out of our lives. We want to cut them down.
Well, you just got to come at it from a corporate angle.
I think the Republican Party does kind of fight for the government to an extent. Like not being able to decide what your children are learning in school, like trying to bring church into school, that's kind of big government. I think that's way, like, completely over-regulatory.
Church and
so
state,
it's so funny that, like, I mean, the control.
Also, the entire, like, Schedule F appointment thing, the merit-based hiring that Trump did again. How is that not big government? The fact that Trump just fired, 17 inspector generals without notifying Congress, as he is required to do by law. Is that not the fact big government, that's not like big executive branch at least? Same thing with the Federal Reserve. Trump threatening Powell again, saying that he's going to demand the Fed lower interest rates. Like that's not good. That's expanding the executive branch's authority.
Of my womb. Get the fuck out of my womb, government. Yeah, like, I mean, it's funny that we're the party that's like big government when I think both parties are kind of the party of big government, but what is that government doing?
But to Guy's point, I think it's the rhetoric is like they're really coming out of like we need to remove government, even though they're going to utilize it and they're authoritarians. Their candidate is literally trying to become a dictator on day one.
That's so frustrating. It's like they're like, oh, we don't care the states' rights, but like you don't.
But our rhetoric can be an anti-corporate campaign. We can talk about how much corporate greed is ruining people's lives, their ability to provide for their families.
I would resonate with the working class too, because everyone has been.
Yeah, because it's wrong. It's wrong. Greedflation, not real. Always fake.
Over on a rent payment, everyone has missed a car payment. Everyone can relate to not having enough money. You know what I'm saying? That's something that I feel like.
And we don't want, like, we're losing at making the billionaires a boogeyman. Which Democratic politicians are making billionaires boogeymen? I only hear that from progressive people or people that don't have any form of legislative power. We need politicians going in there saying, "This is
crazy ugly lady." You mean the one girl?
This is resources we need to get for the people.
Oh, she's crazy.
Bernie,
ugly.
he's the king of blaming the billionaires.
Yeah, and who does Bernie resonate with besides progressives? MAGA people. There are so many Republicans.
Sorry, I think she's a little crazy. Not ugly though.
Say that they would have voted for Bernie if Trump was not in the running. I will never vote for a Republican
Bernie
again.
would have 100% won in 2016 if the DNC hadn't stolen that nomination.
Absolutely.
So I heard a lot of frustration. I think that's the biggest thing here, that Republicans are appealing to the people, right? They're using the populist message properly. But I think Democrats can easily do it too. We're just held back by the institution itself, trying to keep itself in power. In general, I think that people like Tim Walz, like Ilhan Omar, all these people poll really high in places that are not generally very progressive. I think the Democratic Party can be the party that appeals.
Oh no, she was the one that won her primary, right? The other two, like progressive people, Jamal Bowman and the other guy, I think lost their primaries, right? I don't think they. And again, Kamala, or Bernie and Warren both underperformed Kamala in their state elections.
People again, because the facts are that they did in this election, but I think it can easily happen again if we move more towards these ideas that speak to the people more.
Well, specifically, what ideas are you referring to?
I think Medicare For All is an idea that a large majority of the population does actually agree with, and I don't think anyone in this country will tell you that our healthcare system is not broken. And I think that that's an easy idea to run on that will generally benefit the people and will get Democrats elected way more easily than running on being a border czar.
When it comes to Medicare For All, I think people have to be beaten down way more than they are right now to give up what they have. People are terrified of of the unknown. And
people have like insane status quo bias, and most Americans like their healthcare plan. I think it's like over 50% of Americans like their healthcare plans. Fuck, I forget where it was either Krugman Post or No Opinion Post. Archive search. Medicare for Nobody real. Yeah, most insured adults give their health insurance an overall positive rating. And there's this big like status quo bias. Like even if Medicare would be better, people are like Medicare for all would be better. People have like a hard time visualizing or understanding why, so they don't want to give up what they have now just for the potential of something, slightly better.
I just think things are not bad enough to get people on that side. When Kamala ran on expanding Medicare to include in-home care for the elderly, that's costing people like $4 or $5 grand a month right now. You think they would have jumped on that? They couldn't care less.
Didn't the man just murder a
healthcare
CEO?
And everyone agreed with him.
And everyone was like,
person, though, that's not like a reflection of America.
That's a reflection of the frustration of the American people. People in general do agree with these policies. Sure, they're scared of the unknown, but I don't see an issue with jumping into real change. And if you communicate that properly, which Democrats do.
Also, it's hard. Americans barely know what Medicare for all means, so it's hard to know. It's hard to know what exact health policy they want, because like if you poll Americans on like, do you want to ban private insurance? Most of them don't want that, but it's just on. If you just ask them like, do you want Medicare for all? They usually support it. It's my understanding. Most Americans support it.
I think you'll easily get through and fight against these lies and these non-existent policies that Republicans have, because you're truly speaking to something that will change your material condition.
Once again, this whole thing comes back to marketing to me, because I've heard interviews with hopefully
based in true
seemingly
localist,
maybe intelligent people saying on the right saying, I can't stand Obamacare and what Obamacare did to this country, but I love the American Care Act, the Affordable Care Act.
This was funny.
I'm like, what?
I think
so. Either we're not conveying a clear and concise message about the things that we are doing for the American people, or they just hate all things blue. Because it's like, it's amazing. I'm like, you hate Obamacare, but you love the Affordable Care Act.
That's a really good point, because again, going back to the exit polls, the healthcare was on there as well, and I don't know the percentage, but it was tiny in comparison to immigration and the economy. But which is causing which, right? It could be that because Trump just went above and beyond to discuss these issues in some capacity, whether he had plans or not is kind of irrelevant. He put the idea in Americans' minds.
And
so now when they leave the polls, they're like, this is what I care about. Versus, like you said, with messaging and marketing, if the Democratic Party did a lot better job at saying what you care about is healthcare, and say it over and over and over and over again until the people are like, I care about healthcare, and then the exit polls will change.
Can you expand on, and you can end it. You're the only one who said that the Republican Party isn't appealing to the average American right now. Why do you think the Democrats are appealing more?
So I don't believe that. I believe actually that Republicans appeal to the people. I do agree with the prompt, but I think that it has nuance to it. And I think that Democrats are able to appeal to the people if they want to, if that makes sense. And I think that the Democrats historically have been a party that appeals to the general populace more than Republicans. Republicans generally associate themselves with the donor class. I think that Democrats need to go back to the messaging that is truly a populist messaging.
Biden was a great president.
Let's go, IRI, let's go. Yep, I knew he was going to be the only one. Let's go. My man. Yeah.
Yes, I think when people look back at the history and what happened with Biden,
Based
they
in
will
truth.
appreciate him a lot more. This is the guy who got us
Truth-filled.
through the pandemic when people were not so hopeful. He was able to corral Congress and get bipartisan legislation passed. I mean, infrastructure bill, $1 trillion worth of infrastructure to upgrade our bridges, our tunnels, something that we've been needing for decades. A guy who brought back manufacturing to America with the Chips and Science Act.
The brought back manufacturing. I think it's good that we have chip manufacturing here. I don't really care about aggregate manufacturing, but that's true. He did lead to increasing manufacturing jobs in the exact places we needed it. Yes, based, correct.
A solid leader when people are looking for that. So I think Biden had a brilliant presidency.
My
it's sad that
man.
our fellow Americans aren't going to reward him
Let's go,
for that.
IRI.
But that's the times we live in now. Maybe he should have dropped out, earlier and given someone passed the torch a little earlier. But as far as his presidency goes, I think this is probably one of the best in my lifetime, and I appreciate what he did.
True, and the NLRB stuff. Let's go. pro-union base. Actually, too pro-union, if you ask me. Kind of unironically, though. Okay, kind of unironically, but.
I would agree. I think Biden has had a very strong legislative record. I think that he's built a lot of relationships in his decades as a public leader.
Oh,
and I think that
the Silicon Valley Bank. I give Biden credit for this, even though it really was not him. It was mostly the FDIC that did a good job handling it. I think the Fed probably played some role. But you know what? Happened under Biden. Therefore, Biden was responsible for it. Not it crashing, but it... but, you know, all the deposits being insured, and the banking crisis stopped.
Did a lot of good as far as passing good legislation. I think part of being a good president, though, is effectively communicating that to the people. And I think we'd all agree that's probably one of his weakest areas is proper communication. He's not a good orator. He's not good at inspiring that type of hope. Really, Biden was a refreshing look into what a boring normalcy can be, as opposed to Trump's very erratic, flamboyant personality. And I think that does a disservice when it comes to highlighting accomplishments.
Just a quick response. I vote for a president to make tough decisions behind closed doors, not to give speeches. So me personally, I understand the value in that, but to me it's more important than
I think you're engaged with the substance and the policy guy. You're just not the average American. People need somebody that they can look to that don't have any political education and be like, that's my guy, I want to have a beer with him.
Yeah. But they're going to benefit from what he did for years.
But they're never going to give him credit.
They're not going to know that. They don't care. They don't know. They have no... Also... God, Republicans just lie. Remember when we had to start putting up the signs that say funded by Biden's infrastructure plan because Republican senators would post a picture of, a bridge being built in their state and be like, wow, look at this big bridge that we built. And everyone would be like, motherfucker, you voted against the infrastructure bill. Motherfucker, you don't get to take credit for this. You voted against the bill that funded this. What do you mean, brother? What do you mean?
Did he really benefit people in the long term? You have to be electable as well.
I think Obama, I have many, many, many criticisms of his presidency, but in terms of being a face for the country, oh my God, let's talk about amazing. It's class and it's friendly and the smile is perfect. And I don't think that's everything.
Oh, speaking of Obama, drone strikes. Biden ended the drone war, basically. I mean, he still did some, obviously, but Biden did not do many drone strikes.
Obviously, but I think in terms of perception of the presidency, I think that has a big part to do with it. And unfortunately, that was just probably Biden's, one of his lowest points. And honestly, Guy, I see your point about the speeches versus the decisions thing, but if the guy can barely put a sentence together, how can I trust him to make a tough, call in the Middle East or something?
His unfettered support for the genocide in Gaza. I think that the Israel...
First of all, basically every US president does that. Biden actually had a fair amount of pushback for Israel, okay? For a US president, Biden did, quite a bit of things on Israel. Also, I'm just so after Trump was caught on tape saying, hey, let's just deport fucking Gazans to Egypt and Jordan, and they can stay there maybe for a short time, maybe for a long time too. I don't care anymore. No, I don't care. No, shut up. I don't care. I will defend my goat, Joe Biden. Oh my God.
Palestine conflict is something that people have turned an eye to in a different way now, and Joe Biden stood on his ground about unfettered support for Israel in the Benjamin.
I was not unfettered. He paused fucking 2,000-pound bombs, and Trump just unpaused them. But at least he wasn't saying that he was going to fucking deport people to Egypt.
And the Yahu administration, which is a genocidal administration.
Okay, so I have 3 very, very quick points why I would never, ever, ever consider Joseph Biden a great president. In my opinion, Joe Biden
is a loser and a moron. Why do you support him? Because I think what he did was a net benefit to America.
Rightly responsible for the mass incarceration of black men and women, but definitely mostly black men in America based on the...
president, right? So the 90s crime bill, even if you have criticisms of it during his presidency or whatever, but...
86 crime bill, 94 crime bill.
Well, actually, I say sure, but also even the Black Caucus supported this crime bill. People did not think this was going to be a racist crime bill or whatever. But crime was just a big problem at the time, and we probably didn't address it in the perfect way, obviously, or the right way, obviously. But I don't think Biden was trying to be racist or anything. I don't know. Maybe it was. Maybe there's some behind closed door meeting where he admitted it and we have it on tape. I just don't know about it. Just because the orange man bad doesn't mean special needs good. Did you hear the words coming out of my mouth? I said I think what Joe Biden did was a net benefit for America. I didn't mention Donald Trump. I didn't say anything about Donald Trump. That doesn't matter at all. How retarded are you? You love career politician, swamp monster, DC insider, bro. That's so weird. I love the establishment. I would never stop defending it.
And then again, he promised to get that George Floyd Policing Act pushed through. Biden did nothing to get that done in his.
Biden was relatively pro-policing, and that was based. I don't think he was able to do it, but the fact that he wanted to hire new cops, like, was a somewhat like moderate, reasonable voice in the whole like defund the police stuff, while still, you know, obviously saying certain things with the police probably aren't great. You know, literally, well, George Floyd is right after George Floyd was murdered, obviously. Does the word elitism mean anything to you? The word elites are based. All the elites are based, and I love them. And their net benefit. But the fact that Biden was relatively pro-policing, I think is probably a good thing.
Presidency. And I am so disappointed in him for that. I almost don't care about anything else that he did. And I know there were some good things, so I'm not going to sit here and say everything was bad. He definitely did some good things. But as a black man in America, there is no way in the world I could ever attribute greatness to the man.
The reason why he went back on that was to appeal to moderates. People.
Oh, you're killing me.
No, I'm serious. If you look at.
You say appeal to moderates, but how many Americans ever supported defund the police? Like obviously the progressives like supported it, but as a black man in America, why are you elitist? Because I believe the elites help the black man more than anyone else.
Pulling on police reform, specifically things like defunding police or putting more resources towards allocating social services. These are things that moderates did not like. They like living in the suburbs. They like having their policing. They're like, this is not
Very
tasteful.
NIMBY policies.
And Biden said, you know what, actually,
Biden was not NIMBY.
you're right, this is going to pull bad. I'm going to lose elections if I do go on my promises in protecting people. It's his failure to be a progressive candidate is the reason why he didn't actually enact that type of policies.
I just want to hear, starting from left to right, who you think would be the next best presidential candidate, and then we can have a discussion about that as like the closing part of the segment.
I honestly really liked Tim Walz. I really liked him. I thought he was a great candidate for.
I don't have a strong opinion. I don't know if Tim Walz, I don't think, is a great communicator either, so I really don't know.
Both progressive and moderate Democrats. I think we all really rallied around him. And it was one of the first times I saw people really like excited about a liberal politician in a while.
I think AOC is actually a great candidate. I think she went into her race in a very grassroots way that brought people together in her community in a way that she can do for the nation as well.
I think we need a new face that has not been thrown in the mud or attached to historical losses. Personally, I think someone like Greg Cassatt would be really good for uniting people who understand these issues and want a progressive vision with a new face that's very charismatic and a very good communicator.
So I'm a California boy, very, very hard. I love this state. I was born here. I'll probably die here. It's new for me right now for a couple reasons. Got a proven track record at dismantling potential conservative candidates. And I also think Gavin Newsom has this sort of this old-fashioned sensibility, this old politician kind of thing. Like, oh,
I don't think Gavin Newsom would be good. I don't think anyone from California would be good, honestly.
we're going to get this done. And as silly as that is, it appeals to like especially older voters. You know what I mean? So again, this is 4 years out. This is just my best guess, but I'd pick Newsom right now. And he's got name recognition. That's another thing too. People know who he is. Like him or hate him, you know who he is.
I'm probably going to give the most uninspiring answer right here because honestly,
Joe Biden.
I don't necessarily see anyone out there, but if I have to be forced to throw out names, I would probably say something like Governor Wes Monroe. I always liked Beto O'Rourke, his approach to policies and humanity and social issues.
John Stewart, 2028, maybe, man,
so
maybe
if we're just
Apex.
making a wish list, I probably would go Beto.
Well, I think it's got to be an outsider. The American people don't understand this system of government. They don't know what the filibuster is. They don't know what gerrymandering is. They don't know why the system's broken. They just know it's broken. So they want someone to come in from the outside to shake it up. But I was actually going to say the governor of Maryland as well, Wes Moore.
I said Monroe, I meant Moore.
I know you meant Moore. This is a guy who's shotgunning beers in the parking lot with people. He's just a man of the people, and he's got the energy and the excitement, and nobody knows who he is. And so I think that's a likely candidate.
I kind of love that.
I was going to say,
I don't know
you're making
about
people
Pharma.
vote for this dude. I don't know anything about it.
Do you think Medicare for All is in the business interest of Big Pharma? No, I think it's not. I think that's why they lobby against it, is my understanding. It would probably, like Medicare for All, assuming that there's a big government insurance company, they would be able to push prices down from Big Pharma. Like drugs would get cheaper. Big Pharma would get less profit.
Well, that sold me. I mean, I'm going with this guy too, because honestly, like, I'm so politically lost these days, and I don't. I'm also just not plugged in enough to know the details of all of these people, and I have very little trust for politicians, honestly. So if you guys think this guy's great, I'm happy to. I mean, everyone seems to kind of agree.
Damn,
But
guy, you already
demand
got.
would raise. I don't think demand would significantly raise for most things. I think demand would probably raise for preventative care. But ever heard of the Bill Clinton sock drawer case? No.
I'm a vote.
Yeah.
You should help him run.
Oh, I started that.
Also, welcome back, Brass.
The person who came to my mind was also Beto. I just feel like he's from the South, he could appeal to like the good old red, and he's also just like, he has a certain charm to him. I feel like that's something we've been lacking recently with politics, because I'm not sure if you've seen our recent politicians, but a lot of them are old. So we need younger candidates back. I'm not sure if I'm quite with the AOC train yet, unfortunately. I think she might be too young.
Unelectable.
I'm not gonna go on tangent, sorry. But yeah, I would say veto for now.
I have a 30-second comment on that interaction right there. It's saying AOC is unelectable, but liking Beto O'Rourke, who's lost every election that he's tried to run. Like, what are you talking about here? Anyway,
it was just a wish list.
Why can't AOC be a wish list?
I feel she has so much negative press because of her far left thoughts and philosophies, and I like AOC. So this is not.
I really don't know if AC is unelectable. Populism seems to do pretty well. Here's what you think after reading. I was hoping you would summarize it for me.
Not a personal thing, but if someone gave me $1 million and said you have to bet on whether or not she can get elected, I would 100% say there's no chance in a national election.
Of AOC, I really don't know. I feel like AOC would probably get negative press for her initial rather progressive positions, but I don't even know if she couldn't overcome that. I don't know.
Sorry, going back
and
to
Gavin Newsom's also unelectable. I don't think he has a shot, and I wouldn't mind.
So is everyone we said unelectable except for Tim Walz?
He's actually probably unelectable because the right is so good at coming up with these little disgusting nicknames like Tampon Tim. That's what they will make the narrative about. It's not about his service to the country. It's not about feeding the kids, which he does.
There was also a lot of hate towards Trump, and he still managed to win freaking twice. The fact of the matter is we are a very two-party country. So whoever you put up on one side party, the other party's gonna freaking hate. But that doesn't mean that they're just unelectable because they hate them. It's like, of course, they're supposed to.
Just as a group, if you all had to pick one presidential candidate, who would you pick?
I'll give you 3 options. Greg Casar, John Ossoff, or Raphael Warnock. Those are.
I feel like John Ossoff could be good.
I like Warnock.
Can we get behind Warnock? Warnock is a pastor from the South.
Yeah,
Georgia
he would
senator.
go very well to it. And I'm from Georgia, so I actually voted for him in the election, and I saw people in my county that's very, very red really rally around sort of a candidate that was very, very different.
I like that.
Do you guys think he's progressive enough for you?
He's a moderate, but I do like the progressive posture he has, and he's willing to work with progressives.
Yeah, Raphael Warnock.
Warnock, baby.
Okay.
Follow the way.
Right.
America is not ready for a female president.
Okay, before we discuss this, Brass, I'd have to do more reading about this case, but again, if Trump thought the documents were personal, he would have just told Nara that. He wouldn't have tried to hide them and not comply with the subpoena and lie to Nara about it. He would have just said, these are personal documents. He wouldn't, even if they are personal, he's still guilty of obstruction for the whole trying to not comply with the subpoena thing. He would just have hardcore screwed himself. He clearly did not think they were personal. We have him on tape saying, I could have declassified these, but I didn't, brother. He did not think that these were personal documents. Otherwise, he would have either told Nara that, and he would have said on tape that he could have declassified these, but I didn't. And he wouldn't have obstructed justice to try to cover it up. Anyway, okay, regardless. Anyway. Damn.
It's a tough one.
All right, fine.
I
won't leave you alone.
Thank you.
Bullshit. It doesn't matter. It could have been a bullshit subpoena. He still didn't comply with it. That's still obstruction. I'm thinking, unless you're saying the subpoena was illegal, I don't know if he can get charged with obstruction for a subpoena that's illegal. But you can say the subpoena is bullshit, lawfare. I mean, you can say it's lawfare, but even if it's a lawfare subpoena, it's still obstruction of justice to intentionally not comply with it.
Yeah.
I say that America is not ready for a female president because they've shown us twice that they're not willing to elect the most competent person for the job who was a woman in both scenarios.
I mean, Hillary won the popular vote.
I wish we were. Yes. I would love to see a female president. Obviously, I don't just want a woman in office because she's a woman, but I would love to see a competent female politician have that historic opportunity.
Which has been done all over the Western world and the industrialized world.
Almost every other.
Not rare at all. Just our neighbors to the south.
Yeah, it's a shame, but if America was ready for a female president, we would have one.
We would have our second one.
It was pretty nonsense. Let's say, even if it's a nonsense subpoena, I don't think it's a strong case to be made that the subpoena was illegal or somehow exceeded the DOJ's authority or whatever. It's still obstruction and not comply with it. Why wouldn't he just say that they were personal? Why wouldn't he just tell Nara and the FBI that these were personal documents if he thought he could do that? Why would he say on tape, I could have declassified these, but I didn't, if he thought they were personal documents?
Agreed.
I actually think I would have sat down.
Nonfon for first female president 2036. Space brass. Yeah,
Because you
hell
came in
yeah.
from that angle. Because I agree. I think in terms of culture, America has an enormous problem with sexism. That was not the entire reason, but I think certainly played a huge factor in Hillary Clinton not getting elected, Kamala Harris not getting elected.
I disagree with both of you. I think that it really depends on who the woman is. It's not necessarily because they're a woman. I think Hillary Clinton has historically been a very unpopular political figure. And when we see people like Nikki Haley get second runner-up in a Republican Party that is historically anti-women, who's anti-women's choice, uses a lot of sexist rhetoric, it's very indicative that people are changing that tide.
Yeah, I think it's indicative of the policies that need to change within the party itself. It doesn't matter who's putting it forth.
He
as
did
much.
say that? Say what? Say that these were, he didn't, I don't know, he hid documents to not comply with the NARA, with the subpoena. And he told, I think he even told NARA that he had given all the documents back when he hadn't given the documents back.
Sure, they have to be popular, they have to be likable. And Americans are more accepting of, I think, the general idea of having someone different than them, as long as they're speaking something that they believe in.
Can I ask, you don't think there's, and I'm really not trying to gotcha or anything, I'm just like actually asking, so you don't think there's a large sect of people that when they saw Kamala running or saw Hillary running, that was like, oh, that's a woman, I'm not voting for her?
No, I think they saw what she stood for as a woman, and then they played into, oh, she's also a woman.
Because let me tell you,
Biden ran a similar.
I mean, I think a lot of people are kind of looking for an excuse to not vote for a woman, right? Like, a lot of people aren't necessarily against voting for a woman, but like, probably have some interesting bias. He was obstructing, but it's still illegal. You can't do that. That's illegal. Why would he even, if he thought they were personal documents, why would he try to obstruct at all? Why wouldn't he just say these are personal documents? Why would he try to obstruct it? That only makes things worse for him.
Campaign.
You guys, touching on misogyny, we're doing an incredible disservice to women by saying
Okay,
that it's not
wait,
neutral.
Brass, I can't argue about this, right? I have to react to the video.
You're not ready because the American people aren't ready for you. Because not only are there qualified women, which I'm sure that y'all would agree with, but those sentiments is what plays into those actions.
But that's not what I'm saying, Mason. I'm not saying women are not ready to be president. I'm saying it's time to acknowledge
Well, the
that
American people are sexist.
it's time to acknowledge the sexism of this country.
I
This
know,
country
but
has
the
an
only-
incredible culture of misogyny that's increased. Right now, the amount of misogyny that women have to overcome needs to be acknowledged.
But let's also look at it more granularly, right? If America was truly a democracy and not a constitutional republic, Hillary Clinton would be the president of the United States because she actually won the popular vote.
She won the popular vote and lost the electoral college, and Kamala lost the popular vote.
Well, exactly. So that was a different scenario. But it would have been President Hillary.
But it's both. Like in both instances, it's two different ways in which this country has said, "You woman, we do not want you to run."
I think if Trump didn't get the nomination and Nikki Haley did, she probably would have won too. So I do think there's a considerable amount of people that will vote for a woman. I actually felt it was a non-factor in this election to
I wouldn't say it was a non-factor. I think there's a large sect of
You
misogyny.
told him what the goals were then. What was his criminal intentions with the docs? I don't know for sure his intentions. He wanted to keep them because I think he just has a big ego and probably wanted to show them off to people, as evidenced by the fact that he did that. He was showing them off to someone when they recorded them on tape saying those things. I don't know, there probably could be some, it's a national security concern, by the way, because of the very reason that he could have had interactions with foreign officials and had classified documents when he has interactions with foreign officials. There's clearly a concern there.
Misogynistic people who think women cannot lead, and that is completely incorrect.
Well, I heard.
But I think that if you run on the proper things that speak to those people, they will not.
Why
care
do we
who
need
you
a
are, really.
subpoena to search his document because of the Fourth Amendment? Hold on, okay, I can't argue that. I have to react to the video.
Yeah, come on, let's be real here, right? We're on Jubilee, middle ground. Let's be real here. Kamala Harris is a black woman.
Oh, absolutely. That played a huge part in it.
She was fighting up a hill that Hillary didn't even have to fight.
I will say, I know that hill. It's a fuck ass hill. It
So
sucks.
Kamala, black woman, Hillary, white woman. Hillary won the popular vote. We can all probably agree that there was a ton of hatred for Hillary that I actually think was based in misogyny. Things that she said and did would be acceptable from a white man. They still want you kind of buttoned up, and Nikki Haley is that kind of buttoned up woman that people probably could swallow. I personally could have voted for Nikki Haley if Joe Biden happened to actually have been the candidate. I could have done that and not felt horrible about it. But to not acknowledge that Kamala being a black woman, and in my opinion, sadly, the lowest human class on the totem pole of humanity here in America, as far as equality, value,
You phrased that
acknowledgement.
poorly, but
We're doing ourselves a disservice to not acknowledge that.
So I guess the problem needs to be changed a little bit then, because it's not, is America ready for a female president, but for a black female president, I guess.
Well, we weren't ready for Hillary either.
Well, but again,
But she won the popular vote, so I almost feel like I'm kind of changing
I
my
have a quick
stance on it.
question for you on this then. What do you think is the best solution towards recognizing this sentiment? How do we move forward?
that's tough. I mean, that's a tough one to answer, I should say.
And that's what I find a lot with this.
Idea. Okay. I think that a big part of racism and sexism comes from this kind of tribalistic fear that when others gain rights, the ruling or the group that has their rights will lose them.
You will
this
not
kind
replace
of,
us.
Exactly, this kind of sum zero theory that like we're gonna take over their jobs and whatever. We're not coming for your stuff. This is one of the wealthiest countries in the world. Like there is enough opportunities for everyone, and I think it's kind of creating that narrative that we are all on the same team. Like you cannot be a man without women. You cannot be white without having other people live in this. It's a diverse country. That's just the T. Like we're all here together and we're all under one roof. So like stop trying to fight against us.
I think representation matters too. We're starting to see women in leading positions now. A lot of people found out a woman can be a fire chief here in Los Angeles. I had no idea that women were leading huge fire departments, but also in New York they had, I think, their first.
Don't you know? That's the whole reason the LA fires started IRI. It's because of the female fire chief and the lesbian
Black women
firefighters.
as well. Police chief. So representation starts to get people more comfortable.
You know, and I hate getting into the comments because it's such a cesspool. But some topics I get interested to read the comments when you're looking at articles and so forth online. You should read how much hate LA gets for having that female fire chief, because all you see is DEI in every comment.
And online voices are loud.
And she's fully qualified for that position. If you look at her credentials, she is fully qualified for that. But I sat in bed yesterday just reading comment after comment. Everybody, well, this is what happens when you get a DEI hire.
And now they're using
ridiculous.
DEI to undermine our competence and weaponizing this word and now using it to perpetuate discriminating against us in these positions.
Well, I think that there's some firsts happening here, and I think you're going to get a lot of yuck in the process. And so I think the next person who comes down and is in a leadership position may not suffer as much from those sort of attacks.
And I hate to cause division, but there were a lot of moderate consultants who said Barack Obama was not ready. It wasn't his time. We need to run somebody else like a Joe Biden in 2008, and he won with historic margins on that optimism and hope.
There will be some benefit to Trump's presidency.
I mean, okay, damn. I mean, like, there's some benefit to everyone's president. I don't think any president has done zero good things.
Fine.
This is by far the most reluctant I've moved over here.
You know, it will be interesting. It will be interesting to see. I could see Trump doing something good on Ukraine. I also think it's more likely Trump won't do something good on Ukraine. But I could see Trump doing something good on Ukraine. It'll be interesting to see if we actually get the Abraham Accords V2. That would be interesting and probably good, depending on how the Palestinian issue is dealt with. But Nonfon is biased. He's too skinny to understand wanting a fireman that can carry some weight. Real brass.
Well, reluctant. I'll just say we can't stall for 4 years. Like we got to try to do something. We can't be like, well, when we get back in power, we'll do something. He did things like the First Step Act that were good, and so we should push for that.
Project Warp Speed.
Yeah. And so I think it's okay that our representatives, our senators, are meeting with him, trying to find some common ground, because there is common ground. We can't just write off half the nation and say, well, we disagree with you completely. We agree on a lot of stuff.
We also don't want to advocate on the fall of the country. Like obviously, a commander-in-chief we don't want is still a commander-in-chief, and that's something that if he succeeds, we all succeed, so we want to make sure that we're doing that. Now, do a lot of his policies seem to make sense? No. And that's where my accelerationist comes out a little bit, is maybe this will radicalize the people into seeing that right-wing politics doesn't work. So we'll see what happens.
I was literally going to say that exact same thing, and kind of combine it with guys actually too, is that I think, if anything, my hope is that this will mobilize people, get people moving, get people excited, or excited in like a let's get to work kind of way. Yeah, I think it has certainly the potential to be the start of something very good and big and powerful.
Also, now we can never run again. So we're done. This is it. Last 4.
Real. Well, I don't know. Actually, who knows? Real fucking scene, man.
I hope that the war ends in Gaza. Just the overwhelming carnage that's going on there. I hope the war ends in Gaza.
How did people think this? How did we think this was going to happen? Obviously, Trump is going to be way more pro-Israel. And then he comes out today or yesterday, whatever, saying he wants to deport people from Gaza. What do you mean? Of course. What a dog. What do you mean? I guess, I don't know, if you deport literally everyone from Gaza into Egypt or whatever. I don't know. Maybe the war will end, okay? I don't know. Maybe.
Just the overwhelming carnage that's going on there. I hope he does have some positive effect on that. I hope and pray we stop sending these just truckloads of billions of dollars to Ukraine for that situation.
We will.
And then lastly, again, like I said, one of the other prompts, I don't necessarily.
I don't know. Again, I don't even know what Trump will do on Ukraine yet. We'll see.
Really like how he facilitates this, but I do hope there is more of an America first spirit among Americans. To me, that doesn't mean cutting off our aid to the world, because I also do see America as, I think Reagan said it, that shining city on a hill, that kind of thing. But I know that's pie in the sky. But I do love the fact that we tend to aid and assist in places that just don't have it.
I think that's less of a pie in the sky and more of a bakery or a buffet of all these sweets and goodness in the sky. Like a lot of that is absolutely not going to happen, especially when it comes to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict.
Well, that's why I said I hope. I didn't say I believe it will. I just said I hope.
I think no tax on like tips, for example, is a decent policy to an extent.
Can you disagree?
He said he's getting rid of daylight savings time. I'm here for that.
This is just a quick random tangent. I kind of see America as like a game of blackjack. You can either be risky, you could hit when you have like a 17 out of 21. You don't know what you're going to get, but it could either go really well or really bad. And I think something that's going to be very interesting is that everyone knows that Trump is kind of like volatile. We don't really know what to expect with him. And I think the pressure he is putting on like other countries, it could either be really well for us as like Americans or really, really bad. So I think the fact that he is a wild card and kind of having everyone on their toes could indirectly kind of be a good thing for us because we don't really know what to expect.
My issue though is it's not just.
No, I mean, again, I could see him. I could see him getting a win with Ukraine. I could see him doing Abraham Accords V2, and that could be a good thing. Even if we get Greenland, I don't know if that's or get Greenland or even get the Panama Canal. I don't know if that's actually a good thing because I kind of think that's probably going to make people not want to ally with the U.S. as much. That's probably going to drive people towards, trading with China, allying with China, getting loans from China because they don't think China is going to demand that they hand over part of their fucking territory. So I don't think it's actually a long-term good thing. But
that's Trump. It's also
supporting democracy is pro-American. Used to be new.
So everyone Trump brings into his cabinet, and they're all a bunch of fucking morons. Like, I'm sorry.
100%.
Like,
100%.
So even if we have
Nationalism
some
is always
faith
just selflessness and chauvinistic. Letting our allies fail isn't pro anything.
maybe
Real
he'll give us
truth.
no daylight savings time, and like he'll be kind of energetic and like I don't know, whatever.
I think looking at the entire Republican field too, Trump sometimes can come ahead when it comes to like the amount of damage he can do is pretty limited. I mean, we saw his last term; he was pretty stagnant as a legislator. He's not good at getting people to corral around certain issues. He's not good at building bridges, even within his own party. So in a way, he's not going to do a whole lot of harm.
But he didn't have the House and the Senate.
Yeah, he did. He did in 2016.
Yeah.
But the other thing he
on his
passed was the 2017 jobs.
Well, no, he lost them. He lost them in 2018, right?
Right, but he came in with all three.
I am fearful, though, of not the next Trump, but who Trump will set the stage for. Someone who could, believes stuff as radically as he does, but actually has the political experience and know-how to really, really mess stuff up. That's what I remain fearful of.
But he's also damaged the Republican Party, where there's a lot of sycophants in there who only vote for him and don't vote down ballot. They think the rest of them are rhinos. So he might have screwed his party over for the next, few years.
I hope he did, yes.
That's another positive, though, is he brings out voters both who hate him and who love him. Yeah. So he's not good at getting Republicans elected if he's not on the ticket. And we saw that in 2018. We saw that in 2020. We saw that in 2022. And we're going to see it in 2026.
Yeah.
So.
With regards to actual potential positive things, I know that RFK is controversial in his own way, but if there is a movement towards trying to bring back health in America in some capacity, I think that's really good.
Oh no, we have Isaac. This is Isaac's mom here. Isaac doesn't. I mean, Isaac has two dads, but Isaac's mom right here.
And that used to be such a huge liberal thing to be so skeptical of the pharmaceutical industry and the food industry. Again, how they're bringing it forward may be problematic, may be hopeless, may not actually make any good headway. But the fact that Americans are talking about it again, I think is important.
Okay, I have to hard stop full no. RFK is like the worst person ever. He has a sexual assault case allegation against him currently of his old babysitter, his kid's babysitter. He was assaulting. His work in Africa, his nonprofit organization is responsible for spreading misinformation about AIDS vaccines, which is had serious consequences for the spread of AIDS in Africa. This dude, he dropped a freaking dead bear off in Central Park. This man is the worst thing to happen to public health since polio. I can't with him.
Obviously, horrible, ridiculous things. I'm curious what you think he's going to. What's going to be so catastrophic about him with regards to American politics?
Well, let's just hope we don't have another issue like COVID in which people need to get vaccinated or they will fucking die.
Okay,
let's hope we don't have
putting
to have
aside a huge
emergency.
catastrophe like that, what do you think he's going to do that's going to be so horrible for America? I'm genuinely curious.
Spreading complete misinformation, destabilizing healthcare and the medical field, sowing doubt in basic medicine. And I'm kind of just responding to your claim that he's going to be helpful.
I hope. I'm just saying the resurgence of an interest in health, I think, is important for the country.
He said Wi-Fi causes cancer, girl. What are we talking about?
I'm not saying that I support RFK as a candidate or that I would have voted for him, but I'm saying that just the interest in health, bringing that to the public's attention. And I hope that doesn't go a huge conspiratorial route because that'll just serve as a major distraction.
That's
and
all
will discredit.
The interest in health is based in conspiracy.
The interest in health is based
his interest in health is based in conspiracy.
You brought up a great point that you should be skeptical of the corruption of large institutions like the pharmaceutical industry. Yes, there's a lot of greed there that we should properly try to regulate. But I think
I hope it subsides if I remember correctly.
But what I'm saying is, when you're saying an interest in health when it comes to being skeptical of medical professionals, I think that does do a disservice to the American people.
He says vaccines cause autism.
I mean, it's wild.
He said that they're putting chemicals in the water to turn the frogs gay. I agree that
Alex Jones, but it wouldn't.
I agree that health is an important issue.
So unfortunate that we can take something that's factual possible that like there's chemicals in the water, and then put that alongside, oh, it's making people gay or frogs gay. Like that's, get rid of the second part. First part, yes, can we go with that and talk about that?
So see, I agree that health needs to be a much more important issue because like
chemicals in the water based, fluoride make teeth better based, also makes also forced feminization. Chemicals in the water based.
At the same time, it's who is speaking on that issue, and he could not be a worse person to do that. I'm sorry, I can't even
No, I totally know.
It
doesn't bother me because I wasn't like a massive supporter of him. I'm not offended in any way by that.
I did see your bumper sticker outside.
Oh, I have no bumper stickers on my car. How dare you? Not true, guys. Not true.
All right, let's come back to the prompt. If anybody can be specific about Trump.
Well, he's also shifted the focus on the new media, I think can be good. A lot of it's bad. You know, we don't know who's funding whose YouTube channel or whatever, but a lot of people are on TikTok.
IRI funded by Israel and Russia and Iran at the same time.
On Twitter, on YouTube, and so the fact that he's forced the Democrats to invest in that, I think is a good thing moving forward.
Yeah, it's kind of like he's bringing all of these things to people's attention, and maybe the worst people are in place to be like actually moving the country irresponsible. Exactly, but now it's kind of in everyone's awareness at least. And so then we can look back and be like, wow, that was such a good thing to bring to light and they totally mismanaged it. But now we're all aware of it. We all care about it. So let's bring in someone that can actually fix the problem.
Absolutely. Yeah, building on what you said, Guy, really quickly in new media, I think that's a very good point, actually. I hadn't actually thought about that, which is, you know, people laugh at it, but I think Trump and Vance going on Rogan did a huge amount for their campaign and people paying attention to them and listening to them, millions of views. Like I think like literally tens of millions of views within days. So I think if that creates, hopefully, an environment where politicians, if they want to be taken more seriously, are forced to not go to the super rehearsed, super sanitized, you know, options, I think that's good. Now, I don't necessarily think Joe Rogan is the guy, but if he can start that, you know, hey, who am I to complain about that?
Pete Buttigieg on Jubilee was fantastic.
There you go. Yeah, exactly.
And I give Trump credit for, you know, embracing that new media more than Democrats.
Well, let's not go too far. Barack was the original, you know, utilizer of social media.
His Reddit AMAs
new media. I mean,
yeah. He had a Reddit. I didn't know he had a
Trump
Reddit
is
AMA
kind of using new
face.
media because he's been villainized so much by those who practice journalistic ethics.
He might not ban TikTok. He might get
that would be cool.
That would be
a lot of funny memes on TikTok.
Yeah.
He says he wants to fix voter fraud. You know, we might have more secure elections.
Non-issue. Right. Yeah. So I think at the end of this, we've argued a lot on both sides. I think
fluoride is in fruits and sea salt at a similar amount to tap water, even in some freshwater wells. Hippies lost their minds to go back to saving a tree real.
It's clear though that honestly we're all coming from the not exact, but very similar position. We all have very similar wants and aims and goals. We all want a country that we can be proud of, a country that we can all live in and be prideful in. And yeah, I'm hopeful for the future, guys. You know, it's going to be a tough 4 years. I think if we work hard together though and we unify as a party, shit, we can weather any storm.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Incredible. The way progressives are killing each other like bullies with their moderate voice or opinions pretty much proves their point. I didn't notice them doing that much, at least. If you want to chat with me live, sub here or go to Nonfon 420 on Twitch or Kick via the links below. Once again, please like and sub to help with the algorithm, and consider sending a donation through YouTube Super Thanks to directly support me, and I'll make sure to reply to any question you ask. See you guys next time.